Good morning, everybody. Today is day 99 of one chapter Rambam. I want to dedicate today's study. We're only going to study Rambam today. We don't have time for Parsha. Our son, Yisrael Ari Leib's Upshirnish is today. We're very excited for it. We're going to cut his hair for the first time and push him to be educated in the way of Torah mitzvahs. It's notable to remember that today is the Yahrtzeit of Harry and Abby Traubs. Harry and Abby Traubs, Tzvi ben Moshe and Avivit bat Manis. They were very special people in our community, very beloved. Harry would come here always to our minyan, and he would also come here to study Talmud every week. For many years, it was actually quite remarkable. He hadn't put tefillin on because his father had passed away when he was young, and he only decided his father's Yahrtzeit was Tisha B'Av, and his birthday was Tisha B'Av, the saddest day of the year. And it was very tragic for him. It hit very hard. One year I told him, I said, it's your dad's Yahrtzeit, you should say Kaddish for him. He came, he put tefillin on, he said Kaddish for his father. It was very remarkable, very beautiful. Unfortunately, tragically, he passed away a couple of days later on Yud Beis Av. For many years we had a minyan here for Kaddish for him and his wife. They passed away in a motor accident. So I want to wish l'chaim to them. Their neshamas should have an aliyah. They should have nachas from their kids, and they should have nachas from their children, and we should merit to be reunited them with the coming of Mashiach. L'chaim, l'chaim. Okay. Definitely, Harry would not approve of me drinking vodka in the morning. He only preferred scotch. And we would even drink scotch sometimes before shul in the morning when we daven, as well as, several times he came to me and he said, back in South Africa on this holiday and that day we would drink a lot of scotch, and here people aren't really so into it. So again, may his neshama and his wife's neshama, Tzvi ben Moshe and Avivit bat Manis, may their neshamas have an aliyah, and may we merit to be reunited them with the coming redemption with Mashiach Tzidkenu. We're going to start one chapter Rambam now. So we're learning Rambam Hilchos Brachos, the laws of blessings, and we're holding in chapter 9. It's a very short chapter. We spoke about how the biblical mitzvah brachos is to say a bracha after you are full, after a meal. There's rabbinic obligation that even if you're not full, but if you eat past a certain size. And then there's also a summarized bracha we say after all other foods, and that we spoke about yesterday, as well as the bracha Rishayna, the bracha we say before food. So we're holding chapter 9. This is day 99 of the Rambam. There's only 11 chapters, so a couple chapters left in Hilchos Brachos. Afterwards, we'll move on to Hilchos Mila, the laws of circumcision. So just like it's forbidden for a person to have benefit from food or drink before he makes a blessing, similarly, it is forbidden to smell a good smell without a bracha. How can he make a bracha on a good smell? If it is something which has a smell and it is from a tree, then he says Boirei atse b'samin. If it's like a type of grass, then he says Boirei isve b'samin. If it's not from a tree and not from the ground, for example, myrrh, which comes from a musk deer, I believe, he says Beirei mine v'samin. And if it's a fruit which you can eat, like an esrog or an apple, he says Shenasan reach toiv b'peres. And on all things, if he says Beirei mine v'samim, he has fulfilled his obligation. He does not. We don't make aim varchan al ha mugmar. We don't make a bracha on incense until its smoke rises up. And what bracha do you make? If it is burnt from a branch or tree, you say atzi b'samim. If it's grass, say isei b'samim. And if it comes from an animal, you say mbeirei minim b'samim. Number 3, oil, which has a nice smell in it. For example, you say beirei shemen arei. You made sweet oil. But olive oil that's ground up or mixed until the smell comes out, you say beirei atzi b'samim. Oil which has its name is like shemen, the oil that its smell is like shemen hamishcha, you say Bardei Mine V'Samim. If you brought before you oil and myrtle, then you make a bracha on the myrtle, and that exempts the oil from making a blessing. Because the one bracha for both of them could be bari da'atz b'samin. If there is a perfume, which is from a branch, and its smell is like grass, one bracha does not do both of them. If there's one which is wood and one which is grass, one bracha does not exempt the other one. Rather, you have to make two separate brachas. If you brought wine and oil, you hold the wine in your right hand and the oil in your left hand, and you make a bracha on the wine and you drink it. Then you make a bracha on the oil, which is obviously a perfume oil, and you smell it. And you can put some on the head of the shamish, and if the shamish is a Talmud Chacham, then you put it in a kaisel, put it in a wall. Something which is a doubt, if it's from a tree or from the earth, you say bari mine b'samin. A perfume which is mixed with a bunch of different things you buy from a store, you make the bracha bari mine b'samin. If you go to a store which has many smells and you smell the store, you say bari mine b'samin. If you're sitting there the whole day, you only make one bracha. If you enter and leave, you enter and smell, and then you leave and enter, keep entering, you make a bracha each time you enter. A rose and another type of flower, you make a bracha bari atzei b'samin. The Rambam is going through other types of flowers. You say bari atzei b'samin. Of a field, you say bari isfei b'samin. A rose and rose water and frankincense. All these things you say bari atzei b'samin. There are three types of good smells that you don't make a bracha on. One is a good smell which you are not allowed to smell from. So that you don't make a bracha from. You're not meant to smell from it. Another one is a good smell which wasn't made, which was made to get rid of a bad smell. So if it's made to get rid of a bad smell, you don't make a bracha on it. And another one is a good smell which was not made to smell, not a good smell which was not made to smell. For example, besamim, incense of avodah zarah, of idolatry, or besamim, which is on something which is promiscuous. You don't make a bracha because you're not allowed to smell from it. A besamim that people put on dead people, and besamim which people put in the bathroom, they put in incense in the bathroom, like we have our sprays nowadays, which are meant to take away the foul smell in the restroom. You don't make a bracha because they are there not to be a smell for themselves, but to remove the smell. Incense that you put on, this is like detergent in those days, that you put on clothing and on different vessels, you don't make a bracha because they are not made to smell, they're made to make something else smell. Similarly, if you smell garments which were around incense, you don't make a bracha because this is not the smell, this is something that caught the smell. Besamim, so you have incense or you have spices of a gathering of Gentiles, you don't make a bracha. Because very often, it's very common that it will be not for Jewish purposes, not for proper purposes, and therefore it's avodah zarah, it's likely for idolatry, so you don't make a bracha just in case. If you're going outside and you smell something good, if most people are Gentiles, you don't make a bracha. If most people are Jews, then you do make a bracha. If you have a smell that you make a bracha on it, and it's mixed with a smell that you don't make a bracha, you go after the majority of product that smells. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining. This week's Parshas Eikev. We know that Parshas Eikev, I'll just share something on the Parsha because I always do. We know that Parshas Eikev says, V'haya Eikev Tishmun. No. Eikev literally means a heel, and it means to follow. It says if you listen to God, He will keep His covenants and everything like that. So we know that the Medrash, and it's quoted in many places, including Rashi, that Eikev refers to the heel, and the Torah is specifying that there's mitzvahs which we're very sensitive to, which feel very good, and those ones we for sure do. And then there's mitzvahs which we're insensitive to. They're Eikev mitzvahs. We trample them, and also we're just like the Eikev. The heel is an insensitive part of skin. It's a very tough part of skin with calluses. We are insensitive. And nevertheless, the Torah says, V'haya Eikev Tishman, specifically those mitzvahs may be the most important mitzvahs for us to do, to show our commitment to God in exile. So again, we merit that the neshamis of Harry and Abby Traub, I'm just trying to remember when they passed away. Let me just think about it for a second. It must have been in 2017. So that's 6 years ago. So that would make it their sixth Yahrtzeit. And I remember how painful it was after Tisha B'Av, after the 3 weeks. We know that after Tisha B'Av, it's supposed to be, so we're supposed to become happy again and everything like that. I remember how painful it was, but may everyone in his family be comforted, and I'm sure he's looking after everyone in his family and everyone in our community, and Harry and Abby, both of them together, are looking after everybody, and may we merit the coming of Mashiach, where, as we said on our Tuesday class, there'll be no more death, Hashem Alekecha, Hashem will erase all the tears from everyone's face, and will merit the coming of Mashiach, where we will be united with all the deceased. L'chaim.